Hello Eurovision friends, thank you so much for coming to my channel Eurovision Histories for this, a pro contra video. The question you see next to me on the screen, should winners be allowed to return to Eurovision, always gains traction once a former winner is trying to represent his or her country again, or is indeed representing his or her country again at Eurovision. And as we have Måns Zelmerlöw competing in Melody Festival, and this year our winner of 2015, this debate has picked up again in the Eurovision community. So what I wanted to do in this video is give you both sides of the issues, give you all the arguments for and against winners returning. So our pro in this case is we should allow winners to return to Eurovision, and our contra is we should not allow winners to return to Eurovision. Winners returning is sort of a fact of Eurovision history. Our very first winner, Luis Asia, returned the year after her victory, and the year after that again, coming second in 1958 for Switzerland. And our second winner, Corrie Brocken, also returned the year after her victory, and so have many winners after them as well. But just because we have allowed it in the past doesn't mean we have to allow it in the future as well. And that is what this whole debate is sort of about. So let's get to the debate. I included your comments as well from the community tab of my channel, so thank you for that, and thank you for your votes as well. We will be looking at your opinion whether winners should be able to return or not at the end of the video. Now, let's start with a contra argument, and this is the one that I hear the most from people who think that winners should not be allowed to return, and that is it's just unfair to let former winners compete again. Why? They won Eurovision before, they gained a lot of popularity and notoriety through their win. A lot of people know who they are famous, and so they have a big advantage compared to the other competitors the same year. There will also be more media attention because people will be interested in a former winner trying to win again, and commentators might also mention that this artist has won before, and that might add a bit of nostalgia. And even people who don't follow Eurovision as much as we do might remember the first song and remember that they liked it and why they won the first time. A point for these people saying this would be our two winners that won twice. Johnny Logan won in 1980 and then managed to win again in 1987. And Loreen obviously won in 2012 with Euphoria and then managed to win again in 2023. And indeed, Loreen is one of the main arguments for people who are against winners returning to say that it's unfair because she had a huge popularity boost because of her previous win in Eurovision. However, some arguments to counter this. First of all, we have statistics. You might say you just showed us two winners that won before. Yes. However, we also have this. Carola won in 1991 and then came fifth in 2006. You might still say here that maybe she had an advantage. That's why she managed top 5. However, then you have Lena, who won in 2010 and came 10th in 2011. And here the popularity she had from her win in 2010 might have been the biggest for a former winner because she returned right after that the next year on home turf, and she only managed to come 10th. Then we have winner Alexander Rybak, who won with the biggest point total in Eurovision history, and then only came 15th in 2018. We have Charlotte Perrelli, who came 18th in 2011 after winning in 1999. We have Niamh Kavanagh, who only came 23rd when she returned in 2010. We have Dana International, one of the main arguments against winners having a big advantage because she is an iconic Eurovision winner. Her win in 1998 with Diva is an iconic Eurovision win, and still she did not even qualify from the semifinal in 2011 and only came 15th. So statistics don't really prove that former winners have an advantage over the other competitors, at least not all of the time. And you might also say that it really depends on the winner returning. For example, if ABBA, Celine Dion, or Måneskin returned, the 3 Eurovision winners that actually managed to build a huge international career after their Eurovision wins, then maybe the argument that their popularity and their level of popularity is just so much bigger than anyone else's might actually work. But if we look at this, the discography of our first double winner, Johnny Logan, between his 2 wins, you can see that he had a few minor hits in Ireland. That's the first bracket you see there, but otherwise didn't really have any international hits, to be honest, after his first Eurovision win. And the same is also true for our second double winner, Loreen, who had a few minor hits in Sweden, but didn't really manage to have an international hit in between her Eurovision hits. Eurovision winners are very popular and are household names in the Eurovision community, but at the end of the day, the amount of people voting in Eurovision, only a very small part of those are Eurovision fans. And if you go that route, shouldn't that also mean that other artists that are very popular among Eurovision fans, for example, artists that came second or third, should also be banned because they have a huge popularity boost because of their previous participation, which would mean no win for Karula because she had participated before, no win for Helena Paparizou because she had participated before, and no win for someone like Dima Bilan, even though maybe that is something to think about. And wouldn't that also be true for any artist who has a mildly successful international career? So should Bonnie Tyler, for example, have been barred from participating in Eurovision because of her previous international career and her fan base? Should Luan be barred from participating for France this year? I'm not sure this would be the best outcome for Eurovision if established artists are not allowed to compete anymore, just to make it more fair and we have a competition of newcomers and unexperienced artists. Another argument might be that because you are a former winner, that might actually be a bit of a disadvantage because people have a huge expectation for your song, for your performance, for your staging. And if you don't meet that 100%, they will be disappointed and will not be voting for you for that reason, when they might have voted for a newcomer with the exact same song, the exact same staging, and the exact same level of performance. Also, there are lots of people against winners returning, as we can see in these debates, and they will not be voting for you from the get-go. So that's already a huge part of the voting population that will not vote for you, and maybe that evens out a bit of the advantages you have from the popularity you gained from your first win. Now let's go to the contra side again. A lot of people also say that not allowing winners to return would ensure variety in Eurovision because winners often return with a similar song to their first winning song because they just know that it worked the first time, and not allowing them to compete would ensure that the country can show another part of their music industry, maybe a completely different genre and other artists as well. You give others a chance to have that moment on the Eurovision stage in front of 200 million people. You had the chance already, and even if your career didn't take off after that, you already had your chance and should leave the space for someone else to take and to have their chance at an international career. And you might also have an unfair advantage in your own national final in your country because people think she did it before, she can do it again, we want to do well again, so let's choose her. And you might take the place of someone more deserving who comes in second and only loses because of the fact you are a former winner. The argument against that would be that a lot of winners do participate in national finals again, but don't manage to win. For example, Loreen, only 5 years after her win with Euphoria, participated in Melodifestivalen again with the song Statements, which I loved, but which didn't even manage to qualify to the final of the national final. So shouldn't the popularity from her first win have been much higher in 2017 than it was in 2023 when she actually did win Melodifestivalen with Tattoo? So maybe it was actually based on Tattoo being a good song and not her being a former winner. The variety argument you might counter with the fact that a winner can also come back with a song that is completely different from their winning song, maybe in a completely different genre with a different vibe. And if we block them from participating, we might miss out on a great entry that year. I think of Anne-Marie David or Isabelle Aubray, whose second attempts after their win, to me personally, are actually better than their winning songs. They didn't manage to win again with these songs, but I would hate to have missed out on these great entries. Also, it is called the Eurovision Song Contest, so people should be voting on the best song, and if that best song happens to be sung by a former winner, then we maybe shouldn't block them altogether, because then again, we would miss out on a great entry that year. We also seem to always talk about the artists only. What about the songwriters, the choreographers? Should they also be blocked from participating in Eurovision again just because they won before? And wouldn't that curtail creativity in a huge way and give us less interesting Eurovisions every single year, because former winners would just be excluded from participating? And you might also say that it's hard enough to convince artists to actually participate in Eurovision, and blocking more and more people from doing it might actually have a detrimental effect on the entertainment value and the creativity we see at Eurovision. And then this is a good argument I have from one of my followers. You should actually look at the intention of the returning winner. Are they trying to revive their career, or are they trying to show a different side of them, show their creativity in a different way? Did they compose a song that they love so much that they want to share it with as many people as possible, and that's why they return to Eurovision? And should we then really block them from fulfilling that dream of doing it again and competing again? But there you might see we can't really see what the intention behind the new entry is. So let's just make it fair for everyone and make it a rule that former winners cannot participate. You might argue against that, however, that people should be able to decide what they want. First, in the national final, vote for the song they like the most, and then also at Eurovision. If you're really against winners returning, don't vote for winners returning. And if you don't like the song, you don't have to vote for the song. But it should also be a part of the democratic process that all people get to decide who they think is the best song of that particular edition. Another contra argument that I saw is that winning Eurovision is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. With so many countries participating, it's harder and harder to actually manage to win Eurovision. And so if you've done it once, that should be it for you, and you should give the chance to others to actually experience that great thing of lifting the trophy on Eurovision night. However, why should that only be the case in Eurovision? We sometimes say that the Eurovision Song Contest is a bit like the Olympics of music. And in the Olympics, if you win a gold medal, that doesn't mean that you're blocked from ever participating again. Same thing at the Oscars or the Grammys. Just because you won the Oscar for Best Actress doesn't mean you cannot be nominated for it again, if your work actually deserves to be nominated. Some people also say that their argument is more Sweden-specific, because they just don't like that a country that has won so many times, 7 in total, is sending their former winners over and over again. And we have seen that all Swedish winners, Carola, Charlotte Perrelli, Loreen, and now maybe Måns, are actually returning to Eurovision and trying to win again. And they just say that that's unfair, that Sweden, with a huge music industry, should be more creative and more varied. However, you might hold against that this is a very Sweden-specific thing. Because if you look at Melodifestivalen, even and I don't really follow Melodifestivalen, know a lot of the artists, because they keep returning year after year, not just the winners, but lots of other artists as well. It's just a sort of a tradition in Sweden that the same artists come back to Melodifestivalen and try their luck again. And so maybe you shouldn't hold that against Sweden, and it's also their own decision what they want to do. And if they send a former winner, then everyone else can decide whether to give them 12 points or not. Those are all the pro and contra arguments I could think of. Now I want to give you my own personal opinion. Maybe it's shown through a little bit during the debate. I'm just a human being and might not be able to be as objective as I wanted to be. My opinion is based on all of the arguments that I showed you, that I don't think we should bar former winners from participating. My main argument would be that I want what is best for Eurovision, and if we really curtail the creativity of people in different countries, block people from participating in Eurovision, we might miss out on great entries. I named Anne-Marie David and Isabelle Aubray as two examples where I think not having their second attempt at Eurovision would have been a big loss. And I also think, looking, for example, at Giulietta Cinquetti, who came back in 1974 and then lost against ABBA, which shows that if someone else has a better song, they will win. It doesn't mean that a former winner returns, that they will actually be able to win. I also think that we should have as much freedom of choice in Eurovision. I think the particular country and broadcaster should be able to decide how they choose the entry, how they organize their national final, and we shouldn't curtail and block too many things from the get-go, because that might have us miss out on some good things. Also, the argument that if you block former winners because of their popularity, you would have to block a few other artists as well. And I think for Eurovision to have viewers to actually survive, it has to be interesting, and blocking too many famous, established, popular artists would not be in our favor. I'm a Eurovision fan. I want Eurovision to survive as long as possible. And I think blocking former winners would not work in Eurovision's favor in the end. That is just my opinion. Let me know in the comments what your opinion is, whether this debate has convinced you of the other side, maybe. And if you have more arguments that I forgot, do let me know in the comments as well. As always, thank you for watching. Do subscribe to this channel. More videos like this one will come out. I will do pro contra videos on some of the favorites as well, why they will win and why they won't win, like last year as well. So if you don't want to miss that, you got to subscribe. And if you do, I might see you for my next video. See you then, and bye-bye.